Josh.
I'm Josh.
And I'm not Josh, but together we are
Joshing around in Aya.
Right, let's go. Back to it. Josh, you have some wonderful beverages for us. What have you got? Why don't you run us through it?
So today we are drinking a traditional mead brewed by Josh and my brother, who's not Josh.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be a bit confusing.
because it is not me, not Josh. Another not Josh.
Yeah.
To make it more confusing, I do have a brother-in-law who's also a Josh.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
This is batch number 3. So
Nice.
batch number 1, we're still going to drink it at some point, but something went slightly wrong and it turned out about 18%, and so it's going to sit in a dark corner for a long time.
Yep.
Batch number 2 went mouldy, but batch number 3 has been quite promising. So it's 9%. It's barely 3 months old, so it's a little bit young for mead, but hopefully you guys enjoy it, and hopefully makes a satisfying sound.
Yes! Mate, that was such a good sound. I could actually see the waveform on the screen. That was brilliant. Bro, that ASMR is real. Josh, this smells amazing. It's like, it smells like apple juice, but like different. Right, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Should we have a little
I'll try.
Josh, you're just too far away.
Too far away, yeah.
Oh, man.
That is, that honey lines your throat, isn't
it
it?
really
That
does.
is, it's extremely drinkable. I could find myself drinking quite a lot of that.
That is
not realising
dangerous.
it.
I was going to say, like, this is just like, wow.
Oh, glad you like it. Yeah, this is quite a sweet one. So what's weird is when you make it, like you add all this honey into it. It's just honey, water, and then we add some yeast. And then after it's like finished fermenting, you try it and it's like, it's a lot like a dry white wine. It's like there's no sweetness at all.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we like stop the yeast from fermenting. We add some like stabilizer, and then we add more honey back to it to make it a bit sweeter, because otherwise it would be really, really dry.
Yeah.
So we've done 2. We've done some which are a little sweeter, which is this one, and then we did another one that's like a bit drier. But
Mate,
yeah.
this is fantastic. It's interesting how you said a dry wine, because this tastes exactly like not exactly, but very like a dessert wine.
Yeah.
So like those really sweet ones, yeah, and it's really nice, man. Is this the first time you've tried this back? I assume you've tried it before bottling this.
Well, we literally bottled it today. So like did it in our lunch break. So yeah, this is the first time we've kind of, I mean, we did drink a good amount of it because we were also playing around. We added like a little bit of citric acid and like we added some honey, tested the sweetness, did it a bit more. So we were like sampling it while trying to just add a few like refining touches.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is basically the first time properly had a relatively well finished one.
Man, it is really good. There you go. Well,
that just about does it for this episode.
yeah.
So
Thanks for listening. Amazing. Right, guys, we have a listener question, which I'm very excited about. And it's once again, I never thought I'd be saying this, but it's an actual listener question that has been sent into our email. I'm just going to read it. So, Josh, and not Josh. That's obviously the who's it for.
Thanks for
It's because there's no deer at the beginning, so like I don't know. Anyway, at what age should I hand my baby girl a paintbrush and her first miniature? And what are your thoughts on what comes first, the paintbrush or the dice? Regards, a father who values bone golems over Barbie.
Oh, nice.
That is fantastic. Oh, it's by some guy called Josh. I don't know who this is, but that is amazing. That's a great question.
Well, I mean, important to point out the gender there because, as far as I can tell, the listenership of this podcast is overwhelmingly male. So, baby girl, as soon as possible, probably, isn't it? Try to influence the next generation.
Yeah, I think the first miniature, Josh, should be a I don't know when the new monster's coming out for Old Dominion, but I think just give her a massive model that's going to be really hard to paint and just let her have at it. Just see what happens. And I wonder how much better it'll be.
I was going to go in exactly the opposite direction, actually. I think the model that I found easiest to paint is the Siegebreaker Behemoth.
Oh, really?
Basically, if you choose 2 colours, one for the outside and one for the inside, that's basically the whole thing done right there.
Yeah.
Now, there's no child that is going to choose 2 colours to paint an entire miniature because
it's going to be
every colour of the
multicolored,
rainbow on there. But I would love to see a pride-themed Siegebreaker Behemoth at a battlefield.
Why not? Brilliant. Love it.
It's just making me think back on my own, where I started painting, and the first model I ever painted was actually from 40k. It was a Space Marine.
Oh, yeah.
And thinking back, it was a pretty perfect model to start with because I sprayed it blue and I'd painted about 90% of it, the colour it was going to end up. And then you're just left doing like trim pieces and highlighting. And so it was quite a nice one where I got it out of the box the other day while packing a load of stuff away and looked at it. And I have improved a lot since then. But it was nice. Like I remember at the time being like, for my first model, it was like passable in my eyes.
Yeah.
So on reflection, actually, what would be a really good one is Household Knights. Because
nice big models.
Every little girl likes a horse.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's a whole bunch of different sorts of horses that you can go for. Ashen Dawn and Crimson Tower, that sort of thing. It feels like there's a bit too much going on there for a little girl. Maybe like the companion cavalry.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to say the Mountain Squires would be pretty good as well because you get a lot of like horse and not too much armor, which is always appreciated. I'm sure.
Yeah. And I feel like you need to have your first model look all right. Because if like, I don't know, like if you're trying to get into something and your first experience of it is rubbish.
You just need a win,
Yeah. It's like you're trying to get someone into tennis for the first time. So you take them down to the tennis courts and just like don't let them win a single point. They're going to be like, I never want to play tennis again.
Yeah.
You hand them like an Ashen Dawn and say, right, this needs to look amazing.
Just watch them sweat.
Yeah. Like, where do I start? Like, I feel like the paintbrush should get put down and never pick back up.
I just want to know, Josh, at what age are you going to start getting your daughter into wargaming? Because I feel like, I know it will be as soon as you possibly can. I mean, she's already joined us for a few games. I've got a great photo of you, like rolling some dice while you're holding your kid in like the little ramp thing. It's brilliant.
For me, I don't know. I think it's got to be a little journey. Probably like the same way I like got into it. Maybe start off with like a couple of board games.
Okay.
Work your way up to a strategy game. Yeah. Start with a bit of Catan and then bring in Terraforming Mars, and then before you know it, the wargaming's out.
Okay, I've played Terraforming Mars. It is definitely more complicated.
Just before we move on to anything that is more serious topic than this one, anybody who's listened to this podcast before knows that Josh likes to run an all cavalry list.
Yeah, boy.
I'd like to chuck a challenge out there to any listener who'd like to send some photos in to the email address, joshingaroundinaya@gmail.com, and there is no umlaut on the A in the email address. So if you've been trying, try again. What I would like to see, though, is somebody who's taken an all cavalry list and has painted the horses the colours of the My Little Pony population.
Okay.
Because there is a whole deep lore in My Little Pony that I think we've all been missing out on in Conquest. And if somebody would do that into their army, I'd applaud them live on the podcast.
Amazing.
I've got a friend who was a brony, so that might be the way to get him into the game.
It's literally a brony. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, my first game at the Bad Moon event, which we will go on to talk about, but That was literally the guy I was playing against made the joke about My Little Pony when I brought out my all cavalry list. And I was like, yep, it's begun.
Okay. Right, well, that for our new narrative campaign.
A My Little Pony themed conquest.
That is the chaps that was deleted from the 100 Kingdoms.
I can just imagine if he does for some reason listen to this podcast, Stavros just crying. We just sully his lore that he spent years building up. Oh man.
Good work.
Yeah, mate, this is absolutely cracking. Really, really nice mead. I'm sure all the listeners can really appreciate it as well. So we like to make sure we do a proper audio experience for everyone. One day we'll get some filming.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. I thought I'd ease you in with the traditional, and then I've got some more experimental ones in the range.
I think if we ever start doing merch, we should definitely do some mead. Joshing around today, themed mead.
Not mead.
Nice. Mead, and not mead. Cool. So me and Josh went to an event on the Saturday just gone. So this is a few days ago. We went to, what is it, Clash in Air in Bad Moon Cafe in London, which was really good fun. Played 3 games each of 1,500 points. So that was good fun. And yeah, had a great time. I think for this podcast, me and Josh will run through quickly a few of our games and how we found it and our list and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I will leak it now that actually both of us made the podium.
Yes, man.
Me and Josh came first and third. I feel myself being jointly responsible for Josh coming first. I'm taking that on. But yeah, man. Do you want to talk about your list a bit, and I'll talk about mine, and then we can go from there?
Yeah. So originally my list was just going to be the same one I ran about a month ago in Southampton. It obviously performed really well there, and I won 3 games there. But yeah, then with the updated rules, I was like, a few things were like leaping out to me. The main one being the Strategos. So for those who don't know, his new rule is that his regiment count as lights for a reinforcement roll.
Yeah.
Which essentially means I can bring him on turn 1. And so I was just like, this is a game changer. So I put him in a brick of 5 Praetorian Guard. I gave them Aura of Death 4. And then every time, that was my turn 1 pick. And then I also had a Form Divinity, which had flank. And so just the 2 of them would walk on turn 1. And it just suddenly meant what was quite a slow army at Southampton with the Form Divinity turn 1, probably 1 medium, unless I got a bit lucky on a roll turn 2. And then the army only starting to really come on turn 3 and 4. Suddenly by turn 2, I've got quite an established board presence. And it was really good. So I ran a Form Divinity with 2 Canophores. I ran a Hierodeacon with an Emissary of Legionnaires. And then I ran my Strategos. He was sitting in a 5 brick of Praetorian, and then he had a little Emissary of Legionnaires as well. Most game plans are the same. Run that Strategos up onto the board, get him onto an objective turn 2, which he did every game for me.
Nice.
Add the Fallen Divinity, run up right behind him. That was giving out a little bubble of dread, which means, people can't inspire. And then a little bubble of my guys are always inspired. And that just meant this brick that would just sit on an objective was really hard to kill. And then by the time you killed it, all its power had fed behind into this Fallen Divinity. And suddenly you had something that was just off of tier 3 and basically just off unkillable, sitting behind, ready to come through and wreck anything remaining. So that was my list, and that was basically my game plan every day. Every game, I had the Strategos run on, sit on an objective with a Form Divinity behind, little group of Legionnaires nearby, and then often I tried to run my 2 Canophores and another group of Legionnaires kind of somewhere else on the board where I could kind of have 2 fronts. And my first game, I can't remember the scenario. I know what it is. It's the one with the 1 9-inch circle, which is worth 3 points.
Yeah.
And you got the 2 small ones. One's like your friendly one, and then the other one, if you capture, it's 4 points. Head to head. That's the one.
Yeah. And you make points on. It's like melee as well, isn't it? Like you make points on killing enemy regiments, characters, and warlords.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. So that one there for me, I ran on. I seized the big objective with my Strategos and the Praetorians. I did that, annoying thing where you sit it right at the edge
Nice,
so no one else can get on it. And then it just becomes a stalemate where, like, I had a big block. I think I was up against like a 7 block of Praetorian with an Archimandrite in it. Yeah. So it's just 2 big blocks in a stalemate for about 5 turns. But a stalemate where I'm getting 3 points a turn from holding the objective.
Yes, sure. Because you just were quicker and could make it on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Chris who I feel like we're becoming.
Yeah. I love
biggest
Chris,
rival of the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, he destroyed me at LGT, and then I got a little bit of revenge at Southampton, but it didn't. It felt like he got the moral victory because he killed my Thorn Divinity, and I kind of eked out a horrible little points victory.
Yeah.
And then I felt like I properly got my revenge this time. So I beat him in the first game, and then I faced some city states in the second game.
Yep.
And again, very similar story. Strategos runs up, sits on an objective. Other stuff got on a few other objectives, and that game went my way as well. And then that got me to the final against Wadroon, who is my arch nemesis, and Toby, who's just an excellent player.
Toby, yeah.
And that one, we kind of had the Strategos with the Praetorian, the Hierodeacon Legionnaires, and the Thorn Divinity on one side of the board, and then the Canaphores, both of them, and the other Legionnaires on the other side of the board. And so there was a big battle on the right-hand side of the board. There was a Drum Beast. There was Thunder Riders. There were... You play with Drew Nassam. Who are the guys who have lots of shots?
The slingers or the...
Hunters.
I think it was the Hunters.
Spears.
Yeah, and so there's a big battle going on that side, which I just won.
Sure.
Only just. And in fact, there was a very critical turn that most of the rest of the game probably wouldn't matter, but there was one turn left where I had a Thorn Divinity with 3 wounds remaining, and she was in the side of the Thunder Riders. And then I had the Praetorians who had just killed the Drum Beast and had like 3 wounds remaining, but they were on an objective. And Toby had this decision to make with his slingers. Does he shoot the Praetorians and stop me scoring that turn? Or does he shoot and try and kill the Thorn Divinity?
Yeah.
And he shot the Praetorians. Those 2 stands made the Divinity hit tier 3. Heal 6 wounds.
So annoying.
Like gain more wounds. So it went from having like 3 left to like, I think something like 11 left. And then the next turn, like destroyed the Thunder Riders in one clash, charged through, and then straight killed the Hunters just on impacts. And he was like, I might have made the wrong decision.
Yeah, stuff like that really makes me appreciate how much actually I whenever I play against you or any old Dominion, I don't really pay too much attention to where you are on the tiers. But actually, a moment like that, if I'd like known, and I don't know if Toby realised it or not. I assume he didn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't have shot your Hunters. He would have done the other way. Sorry, he wouldn't have shot your Praetorians. He would have gone the other way. But like you being 2 points off of being able to then heal your Fallen Divinity. Actually, as a player against Old Dominion, you really need to keep a track of like the tiers and where you are. And I don't appreciate that as much in some games because I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, you get another dark power, whatever. It doesn't mean anything to me. And actually, no, it does. It really does.
Yeah. If you play it well as well with your Thorn Divinity and like try and time when it hits the next tiers, it can be really great if you can make sure it gets hit and then you get the max value out of that heal. But yeah, and then the other side of the board, it was... What are your guys with 6 attacks I find really annoying?
The
Blooded? Yeah. It was an MSU of Blooded and whatever the Tyrannosaurus Rex is.
Apex
Predator. So those 2 ran down, but to be honest, the Canaphores made pretty light work of them. And then...
Canaphores are...
Yeah, it was a game where like the right side made it feel really close, but actually like Wadrin struggled to have enough mediums. So when I won the kind of left side of the board, I then just sat 2 units on 2 objectives and was just getting it every turn. And even if Toby had made another decision the other side of the board, it still would have been a victory for me because he only had 1 medium left. So he only would be able to hold 1 objective a turn. But yeah, it was a great final game. It was my biggest win to date. I won 94 to 18 in that game.
Days. And just for context, Toby is a fantastic player.
Yeah.
Like he won all of his other games. I think his first game he won like 0 to something stupid, like 50 something, or maybe even more. It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I was chatting to him afterwards, and he's currently ranked 14th best Age of Sigmar player in the UK. So,
oh my goodness, he's a very good wargamer.
To get a win like that against him is my proudest wargaming moment so far.
And a combination of a really strong list, and you just knew exactly how to play it. Yeah, no, you did well.
And it just, it won its game then. And I mean, just to give context as well, you came second with the second, or you came third, but you had the second most number of points in the tournament.
Yes, yeah.
At 118. And I'd scored 94 in one game.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was crazy.
But yeah, so that was my tournament. Hopefully that made sense. I don't know if you've got any questions, Sam.
Well, I think just a comment that obviously I played you the night before you went to the tournament, and that list benefiting from the rules updates for Old Dominion, I finished that game just thinking I pretty much have no idea how to properly counter this list, because it's like our games in the past, it was Spires v Old Dominion. It's been like Spires get up and score early, and then if I can just survive for long enough, you're not going to have enough time to catch up on points at the end of the game. That's my entire game plan. I know I'm going to die. And on Friday night, it was like you're scoring. I can't remember what the score difference there was, but that was extremely one-sided as well. And it was because you get out early, you move fast, you're very difficult to kill. And when I do eventually kill you, I'm helping you to get stronger. So it's just very difficult to sort of think how to counter that list.
Yeah, I remember when we were playing, we got to like turn 3 or something. We looked at it and I had a few more points than you. And we were like, this is a weird feeling of Spires versus Old Dominion. Because with how fast your list is and the number of lights, usually by this point, by turn 5, I'm just happy if I've got more than 0 points.
Yeah. At the point at which we called it, I consciously was thinking to myself, I could, probably 2 turns ago, I could have said, we both know that this game is only finishing in one way, so we're only playing because we're enjoying playing. Like, this is not to see what the result is.
Man, yeah, it's a brilliant list. And I think you're really good, Josh, at like taking a faction and leaning into the things that are really good and just make everything work really well, and kind of like min-maxing in them that way, and just getting rid of all the chaff that doesn't do anything for you. And so like your analytical mind around that is very impressive, mate. So yeah, and like I said, you deserved that first place tournament. So well done, mate.
Congrats.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. So for me, I was running this literally exactly the same list as I ran at the Southampton tournament. So it is 2 mounted squires, which are now painted up after a good 30 hours of painting. So I ran 2 of them. One was veterans, one wasn't. I ran 2 household knight regiments. One was an MSU, one was a block of 5 with the noble lord, with the tawny champion, with veterans for +1 clash. There is now a thing where you can give the noble lord +1 clash as well. Instead of just like cleave 1, which is generally what people used to do. So as of the rules update, that was quite cool. So that actually helps out on his impacts, which is where he does all the damage anyway. So that was good. Then I had a priority commander, and he came in with a MSU of Crimson Tower, and then a MSU of Ashen Dawn. So Ashen Dawn are there to get in a slog fight and absolutely enjoy that. And the Crimson Tower are there to go and do some, hopefully some flank charges. So let me just get on my notes here. So unlike Josh, I did not have a specific game plan as to what to do in each game. I just kind of played it by ear, which is normally what I do. I played my first game against a guy called Jim. He was a lovely chap. Had his army painted up in a kind of similar scheme to yours, Josh, in the fact that he had all these ghostly guys, but he kind of put the armor on them and painted them the armor on, but the guys underneath were ghostly. So.
Yeah, he actually chatted to me at the end, and he was like, he looked at my army and he was like, I was actually considering doing the exact same as you.
Yeah.
But he was like, I thought I'd like go to a bit more effort of painting the army. He was like, I kind of regret it now because yours looks really good, and it would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
Because I did think his looked really cool with the painted armor, but mine was very quick to do.
Yeah, so it was a good game. I enjoyed it. I think my Mount Squires do exactly what they normally do, which is run completely up to the other side of the table and block something up. So that was fine. Got on and scored a few points on the objectives and stuff like that. But I think I made a couple of decisions. I can't exactly remember what they were. But I think I think my deployment was the main issue. So I put my regiments against the wrong things. So what ended up happening at the end of the game is the Ashen Dawn went against his bucephaloi, which are the undead cows. They have cleave 3, so that's no problem for Ashen Dawn. No, Ashen Dawn is no problem for them. So that was particularly sad to see. He came in with a little charge from his cataphractoi, which killed my MSU of Household Knights. I kind of sent them up the right-hand side, which was the side with the 2 objectives. So I was just looking to slow down his ability to then score on my objective and get more points. I was still holding the main one, the larger one that anyone can score. So that was good. But yeah, just eventually he came around the side, destroyed that unit. I did charge in with the Crimson Tower, managed to wipe them out, which was brilliant. I used my Blessed. But at the same time, he came in with his bucephaloi and just completely creamed my Household Knights. And so, yeah, it was like, I think at the end of the game, it ended up with me dancing the kind of Crimson Tower I had left, trying to get round a house onto that back objective, but the Caratids just kept shooting at me. So they are really impressive, those Caratids. And yeah, Jim said I think I was only the 3rd person he'd played at Conquest. He obviously played a few games with other people. But no, he did very well and ended up 23 to 33, and he almost basically tabled me by turn 10. But yeah, we went all the way, so that was good. Then I played Chris, who obviously you played as well, Josh, and who is the arch nemesis of classic joshing around. What is it? He's the, like, you meet him, he's the loveliest guy.
Yeah. He's so nice.
Just this wonderfully nice Scottish man who's got no problems with anyone.
I remember we were sitting in the pub having lunch.
Yeah.
And I remember like the number of points he scored against me was very close to the number of points you had scored in your game. And I remember saying to you, Josh, I think it's a good chance you might face him next. Yeah. And then we were talking for about 10 minutes of what a good game plan should be against him. Yeah. And then when they announced it was you versus him, I was like, you got it.
Yeah. Don't worry, I completely forgot what we talked about. So I just kind of went into it. But yeah, so it ended with... Sorry, why am I starting with the end? It started with me getting my Mount Squires up, as they normally do, which is great. I don't remember this one so well, but what I do remember is by the last few turns of the game, what kind of happened. So you've got 3 objective zones in the middle, right in the middle of the field. So they're kind of like laterally along the board. I ended up kind of holding all of these, and Chris came round with his, he had a massive block of Praetorians. I think it was with an Archimandrite, and he just ended up waltzing them up the board from left to right, wiping out everything I had. Wow. And so it was very impressive. Like what I did is I looked at it and I just thought, I'm not even going to bother. Like, I'm just going to ignore it and hope to hold it back for long enough, which I think we did actually talk about. So that actually ended up playing well in my favour. What was really funny though was that both me and him had... I think he had a set of legionnaires that were almost wiped out by my Mount of Squires before then they were wiped out by bone golems. But what happened is he ended up hit them over to an objective that the Praetorians were sitting on. So the Praetorians could then come down the rest of the board and start scoring against my units and defeating them. And I had on the right-hand side of the board a household knight who was left over literally on like 2 wounds, and he was just sitting on an objective scoring as well. And I was just like, we've both kind of got this like little unit that should have been killed but has somehow survived. So that was quite funny. But it was a good game, but I just got onto the objectives quicker and held them for a bit too long. So by the end of it, I think we scored 43-29. By no means a steamroll. He played very well, and I really liked his Archimandrite, who's probably did the most amount of damage to my Ashen Dawn, which gave me flashbacks of my game with Alex in LGT, because that is what destroyed him. And then my last game, that was melee. So that was against Tom, who was playing City States. Again, lovely guy. He was doing some shenanigans where he was drawing from the strategic deck, giving them Vanguard and I think other things, or don't know if it was Vanguard or extra movement. It's something like that. And that was cool. He had some Selenoi or Satiroi, I can't remember. He had both of them. One was an archer unit and one is a kind of skirmishing unit. I think they're both mediums, but his Satiroi, I think, are the ones that do the clashing. So they came on from like my side of the table because they've got this rule where they can come along basically anywhere you want. And so they just like popped in around the corner and like jumped onto an objective and just like, hello. And I was like, great. My mount of squires, I was really pleased with this, they moved so fast. They went all the way up the board on the right-hand side. Then basically he didn't deploy anything there. So I was like, fine, turned round. And then at the beginning of the next turn, I came in and just like sidled past his Eidolon with the Inquisitors and went into the back of some Selenoid that were shooting at my household knights and just destroyed them because they had opportunists, so it meant they could re-roll their hits if you're in the flank or the rear. And I was just like, this is amazing. I've moved them up and then round 180 degrees to go into the back of something. So these guys are so fast. So that was really cool. That one ended in 51-33. Those Satiroi were actually very scary. They blended through my household knights. Like they destroyed 3 stands in one turn. I was just like, whoa, that was a lot. But yeah, I think we called it early because we were like running out of time and stuff. And I think we just kind of gave each other the extra points for the objectives we'd hold and stuff. But we called it turn 6. But yeah, that was a good game. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time at Bad Moon. I think it was brilliant. Never been there before. I love the tables. They had a little like thing where you could like roll dice, little dice tray thing built into the table. I was like, that's cool. Which I didn't even end up using most of the time. I think I used it a couple of times, but yeah, it's great. They got all the terrain there. And shout out to Jamie. He did a brilliant job organising it. I think it went pretty smooth and it seemed like the app didn't give him any trouble. So that was good. I've heard obviously mixed things about that working or not working. But that seemed to work well. And yeah, I feel like I've always heard these horror stories about like Warhammer tournaments where there's always been like people who are just like awful or whatever. And like, honestly, is everyone I've met at a Conquest tournament has just been like fantastic. So I've had like no problems there and it's just always been great fun. So yeah, it was a really, really good tournament and I came third. So I was very pleased about that. So that is the best I've done in a tournament. And that is also, Josh, the first time we've played in a tournament and not played each other. So I was really, really pleased about that.
Well, it was great. I mean, I couldn't make it, but I was on the WhatsApp and was enjoying seeing photos come in through of everybody's different games, not just yours, but, you know, everybody who was there. And it looked like a great time. Nice painted armies as well. So good work, everyone.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of painted plastic. I was very pleased to see a lot of really nicely done armies.
Yeah, it was some really fantastic paint jobs. That was really, really good. Also,
it would be bad of us not to shout out the real MVP of that entire tournament. That was our friend Stephen, who me and Josh convinced to come along. He's a mate of ours who we've known for a very long time. And Josh, I don't know how you convinced him to come along, but he did. And he seemed to have a good time. Took loads of amazing photos of the tournament, which is brilliant. Rolled a few dice for us. He did a defense roll for me. I needed a 1. He gave me a 1, and I was like, Stephen, you've done your job, mate. It was fantastic. But yeah, he was great to have along. Cool. Right. I think that's it for the podcast. But thanks for listening. We have an email. Who wants to do the email today?
Go on, let me do it. As I tried to send an email there and got it wrong. It's joshing around in Aya, just a regular A.
Yep.
At gmail.com.
Thank you. So you got questions, you've got pictures of your My Little Pony cavalry army, please send them in. We would love to see them. But yeah, thanks for listening and goodbye.
See you later.
See you soon.